got a message about hope. So, now hope with assurance, to be specific, because hope without assurance is not very substantial. I want to start out in Jeremiah chapter 29. Verse 10. For thus saith the Lord, that after 70 years be accomplished at Babylon, I will visit you and perform my good word toward you, in causing you to return to this place. For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, and saith the Lord, the thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. Then shall ye call upon me, and ye shall go and pray unto me, and I will hearken unto you. And ye shall seek me and find me, when ye shall search for me with all your heart. And I will be found of you, saith the Lord. And I will turn away your captivity, and I will gather you from all the nations, and from all the places whither I have driven you, saith the Lord. And I will bring you again into the place whence I caused you to be carried away captive. You know, there's a verse in there that gets cut out, from the rest of it, and it. For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. And then I've seen that verse just taken out, and you kind of lose the context of what comes after that, showing that there's a work for us to do in that. It's not that God, He does know what He's got for us and what He's planned for us, but we have to seek after Him, to find these things out and to get deeper into that. If this year has had a theme for myself, at least, I would say that it would be one of foundation and where you're planted at, and where you built yourself upon. Without that, we don't know where we stand. And that's it's a very shaky ground. Building your house upon the sand and all the shaking that has happened this year, many have been shaken. So God has revealed answers to some of the most foundational questions that I've had that really have stayed with me for 20 or more years. Questions of different things of science and history and just things that have been in the spotlight for a major part of this year. I have a new perspective on because of these revelations. God has His own way of preparing you for battles and preparing you for the storms right when you need it. And the first part of this year, even at the end of last year, I started hearing a lot of these things that I needed to hear. He's shown me how flimsy all this division that's been sown that we've seen throughout this year. How flimsy all the division that we've seen, and the evil power behind it. It's just the things that have happened this year. We can kind of see if we have spiritual eyes to see, we can see what's behind this stuff, and it's so blatant to us, but it's not based on anything but misinformation and deceptions and lies. God has also shown me the importance of being God-centered and examples of what can happen if we're not anchored in God's foundation. So I wanted to talk a little bit about hope today. And hope is one of those words. It's kind of like reckon. We've heard of, reckon it to happen. We've kind of lost the original meaning and we use it kind of in a flimsy way these days. But hope is a powerful term. And this is a couple of definitions I pulled. The intransitive is to cherish a desire with anticipation, to want something to happen or be true. And then the archaic, it's related to trust. And then the transitive is to desire with expectation of attainment or fulfillment, to expect with confidence, trust. And I think that we've lost a part of that with the usage of the word that we have today. We use it almost synonymous with wish, and a lot of us. you know, and all hope is without assurance is a wish, you know. So it's a very flimsy difference, you know. It's a very big difference, but you know, hope without assurance is very flimsy. And then assurance, the state of being assured, such as being certain in the mind, confidence in mind or manner, easy freedom from self-doubt or uncertainty, security, the act or action of assuring someone or something, such as a pledge or guarantee. So, you know, with those kind of defined, we can kind of see what hope with assurance actually means. And, you know, in the way we use hope in the world today, and the way the world uses hope, you know, it's almost as if, you know, you're anticipating something that might happen. Whereas the way that you know, the hope with assurance is God's, it's the same as reckon, it's going to happen because God has promised these things. So, you know, just as you know, in the verse that I had read in Jeremiah, you know, these people were carried into captivity, but the Lord said, you know, seek me and I will bring you out of that captivity. This is a promise that I've given to you. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be a tribulation, you know, but in the end, I am going to fulfill my promises toward my people. And, you know, and I kind of see an echoing of that today with us, and the chaos that's going on in governments and really around the world. You've got all kinds of things with, you know, coronavirus going on. So I really see a correlation there with that hope with assurance and God's people needing to rest on that, you know, in these days too. So I see a parallel almost to that. So if we go ahead and turn to Mark. Chapter 16, verse 14, afterward, he appeared unto the 11 as they sat at meat, and upbraided them with their unbelief and hardness of heart, because they believed not them which had seen him after he was risen. And he said unto them, Go ye into all the world, and preach the gospel to every creature. And he that believeth and is baptized shall be saved, but he that believeth not shall be damned. And these signs shall follow them that believe. In my name they shall cast out devils, and they shall speak with new tongues. They shall take up serpents, and if they drink any deadly thing, it shall not hurt them. They shall lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover. And we see that kind of play out in Acts 28. Starting verse 1. And when they were escaped, then they knew that the island was called Melita, Malta, I believe is what it's called today. And the barbarous people showed us no little kindness, for they kindled a fire and received us every one because of the present rain and because of the cold. And when Paul had gathered a bundle of sticks and laid them out on the fire, there came a viper out of the heat and fastened onto his hand. And when the barbarians saw the venomous beast hang on his hand, they said among themselves, No doubt this man is a murderer, whom now he hath escaped the sea, yet vengeance suffereth not to live. And he shook off the beast into the fire and felt no harm. Howbeit they looked when he should have swollen or fallen down dead suddenly. But after they had looked a great while and saw no harm come to him, they changed their minds and said that he was a god. See, Paul knew God's promises. He had that hope with assurance that God would watch over him because he was fulfilling the commission that the Lord had given him to go forth and preach unto all the world. God could use this as a demonstration of his power and his authority over everything through what had happened with Paul. I'm sure it didn't, feel good to be bitten, but the poisonous snake did not kill him, did not hurt him at all. But this is kind of goes to show that we do have to kind of endure some pain, but God molds us and shapes us into that in that pain, in that tribulation that we go through. In Acts 14, verse 19. This is in the Amplified, so... But Jews arrived from Antioch and Iconium, and having won over the crowds, they stoned Paul and dragged him out of the city, thinking he was dead. But the disciples formed a circle around him, and he got up and went back into the city. And the next day he went on with Barnabas to Derbe. They preached the good news to the city that made many disciples. Then they returned to Lystra and Iconium and to Antioch, strengthening and establishing the hearts of the disciples, encouraging them to remain firm in the faith, saying, "It is through many tribulations and hardships that we must enter the kingdom of God." When they had appointed elders for them in every church, having prayed with fasting, they entrusted them to the Lord, in whom they believed, and joyfully accepted it as the Messiah. Again, here, Paul knew the risks of doing this work. He chose to follow God through the fire and let that experience that God was bringing him through mold and shape him. He could have easily said, you're going to walk back into the city that just drug you out after stoning you. This is the power of God. He walked in faith, and because he had that hope with assurance that God was going to bring him through this, that the word was going to go forth. Because this was a promise that God had given him. So, and it kind of reminds me, with the hope and the word hope and the word wish, it reminds me of something, and it's stuck with me ever since I was probably like 6 or 7 years old. But my grandmother, I remember saying something, and I must have said, "I wish this would happen," or "I wish I had this." My grandmother stopped me right there in my tracks, and she said, "Don't ever wish anything when you can ask God for it." And that always stuck with me because, because she was, basically saying a wish is flimsy. When you need something, when you want something to come to pass, ask God for it, because we have to have that hope with assurance that we're gonna when we're gonna ask something of God. So it reminds us that we have to be steadfast in whatever we're standing in, whatever God has showed us that we need to partake in, a commission or to go forth and have the word go forth. So it just kind of goes to show that we have to stand on His promises, because those are the only thing that holds up our hope. And so. It's not a flimsy word. It's a word based on Christ and based on God and His foundation. So it's turned to Deuteronomy. Chapter 9, verse 2. "A people great and tall, sons of Anakim, whom you know and of whom you have heard it said, who can stand before the sons of Anak? So know today with confident assurance that the Lord your God is crossing the Jordan before you like a devouring fire. He will destroy them, and He will subdue them before you, and you shall drive them out and destroy them quickly, just as the Lord has promised you. Do not say in your heart, when the Lord your God has driven them out before you, because of my righteousness the Lord has brought me into possess this land, but because of the wickedness of these nations the Lord is dispossessing them before you." So this is another reminder of where our focus should be, and not to puff ourselves up. When God is actually walking with us, walking before us, clearing that path, and those things that he asks us to do, He's going to give us the tools and give us equip us with what we need. But we can't let that go to our heads. That's a warning for just about everyone.